everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the SAE-VIT podcast where we explore machines, the minds, and the milestones that drive the world of engineering. I am Nidhi, your host for today. And before we jump into today's topic, let's start with something fun. So I'll ask you a question that what was your first two-wheeler experience or a distinct memory from your childhood?
My uncle has a Chetak, the old one. So it's a deep blue, vintage, proper classic, properly maintained. So he came to our house, and my dad took me for a haircut. That's my first experience with the Chetak, and then that scooter has been stuck in my mind. And then when I got my learners, I took his bike, I mean scooter, on the pretext of learning to drive, and then I had it for an whole week. And like I was just enjoying the gear change. It's straight cut gears, so you'll get a kick and then a power boost every time you shift gears. It was hella fun.
I'll share mine also. So when I was like my first it was a scooty. It was a red Pep TVS ka scooty, and I was small, so I used to sit in the front seat. It was not a seat also, but I used to sit there. That is my distinct memory. But now that you've mentioned Chetak, so today's podcast is also related to it. We are going to talk about how Bajaj is nowadays like they are producing a good bikes and how they are influencing today's market. So, you know that almost every Indian family has a Bajaj story, like as you mentioned, Chetak or a Pulsar that ruled college campuses. It's amazing how one company has evolved from being a household scooter brand to becoming a global motorcycle powerhouse. So today we are exploring Bajaj that made a leap from scooters to superbikes, from Indian roads to international market. When we look into that journey, it's fascinating how the company moved from being known for scooters to becoming a dominant name in motorcycles. What do you think maybe led to this transformation, and how did it change India's biking landscape? Sushant.
So the Chetak was more than just a scooter. It was a symbol of reliability. It was built for Indian families, Indian roads, and Indian realities. You could rely on it to start every morning, carry a week's groceries, or even help run a small business. But what made the Chetak special was that it just wasn't trying to be flashy. It was dependable, affordable, and incredibly resilient. It gave mobility to millions. But like you said, over time, India itself started to evolve. And as the economy opened up, there was a clear shift from just collective living to individual expression. And mobility was just no longer about getting somewhere, it was about how you got there. And Bajaj sensed that change. The same company that once gave India its family scooter began focusing on personal performance and style. That's exactly what set the stage for the Pulsar. What about you, Nidhi? What do you think?
I also think the same because now when like I've seen in movies and all, the Pulsar was more of a cool bike. It had this image, and it was a bike for Indian youth in the 2000s, and it created a new identity for of bikes in Indian youth. So that is what I think. That is what I feel about Pulsar, and maybe even proving that India could make bikes on its own terms. Feel Jacob?
Well, you're right, Nidhi. It was a cool bike when it first released. Up until the 2000s, the general bikes sold in India were like mileage focused. I mean, who are we kidding? The cars are still almost all are mileage focused. We rarely see any as sold as performance based. But then when the Pulsar came out, it was performance based. Not very high end, but still affordable, and it was reliable. Every young adult wanted the flashy new bike in the market, and then it had features like disc brakes, twin spark, and overall it had a muscular and a sporty look to it. So everyone wanted it, and it was also the fastest production bike sold for the Indian roads at that time. Ultimately, it proved performance could be engineered in India and at Indian price points, and that there was a market for it.
Right. And also one of the things that is significant in Bajaj's story is its design language. That has come a long way, like from a simple commuter looks to more muscular and global aesthetics. What do you think triggered this shift or what influenced it? And how does today's Bajaj's design reflect the mindset of modern Indian riders? Shant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the shift we saw with the Pulsar wasn't just about performance, it also sparked the new beginning of the design era for Bajaj. Like earlier, the Bajaj scooters and bikes were function first, like simple lines, practical shapes, all built to serve a singular purpose. But as Indian riders evolved, their expectations did as well. And suddenly, design started to matter as just as much as like mileage and reliability, like Jacob was talking about. And what triggered that change, I think, was the mindset of the new generation of riders. People who didn't just want to own a bike, they wanted to express themselves through it. And Bajaj tapped into that beautifully. Their design language became more muscular, more aggressive, and yet very Indian in spirit, purposeful, tough, and made for real world conditions. And we saw that with newer editions of the Pulsar. Like recently, there was, I don't know what year it was, but there was a recent revamp to the Pulsar as well. So today's Bajaj bikes carry a sense of balance between bold design and a functional performance. And for me, that's everything I expect from a bike.
So, can we also make a statement that design played an important role in Bajaj's history or growth? Secondly, now we are going to talk about Bajaj has always managed to combine performance with practicality. Powerful but still fuel efficient. Do you think they've been able to strike that engineering balance between raw power and daily usability?
Like I said earlier, the average buyer looked mainly for mileage and reliability, and Bajaj delivered that perfectly. But today's youth want something more. They want performance, design, and a sense of global connection. They want a bike that doesn't just get them somewhere, but says something about who they are. And Bajaj has responded to that shift. Instead of competing on price or practicality, they focused on creating bikes that feel international in design and performance, while still being catered for Indian roads and conditions. Like with collaborations with global brands, like investment in R&D, with clear design identity, have helped Bajaj appeal to this new generation. For example, with the KTM with Dominar, Triumph with the Scrambler 400 and the Speed 400. And like speaking about KTM and Triumph, like Bajaj had a long-standing partnership with Kawasaki as well. So in many ways, Bajaj isn't just keeping up with the youth; they're evolving alongside them, shaping what modern Indian motorcycling looks and feels like.
You mentioned KTM and Triumph. Bajaj had a long-standing partnership with Kawasaki. I think those early years of collaboration played a behind-the-scenes role in shaping Bajaj's technical and international ambitions, Jacob.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Bajaj and Kawasaki had a sales and service partnership. Those early years of collaboration gave Bajaj access to processes, quality systems, and global brand expectations. The bikes were built to Japanese standards. Yeah, we all know Japan products to be of a high quality, right? I mean, uh,
Yeah.
the bikes were built to international standards, tolerances, and then the alliance. I think it ended on 2017, and that till then it built Bajaj the competence. So when the talks came for Bajaj to start a new alliance with KTM and Triumph, it played a role, definitely played a role because KTM and Triumph can trust Bajaj to do the work. It eased their talks basically. And then they collaborate on joint development, IP sharing, and now Bajaj is open for the world. Say about
Modern
this.
Bajaj bikes now features things like liquid cooling, sleeper clutches, and fuel injection. Tech that used to belong only to expensive models. Does this show Bajaj's intent to close the gap between budget and premium bikes in India? Jacob.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is a classic example of technology trickling down uh, to the lower models from a higher model. You can see it with cars in Lexus. Lexus builds concept cars, and then the technology goes down to their Toyota models as well. With access to global technological IP for Bajaj, especially from KTM and Triumph, Bajaj can now cost engineer the products, the parts, components according to for Indian prices, Indian standpoint. So it would be reliable and technologically advanced while still being affordable. As a result, the premium bikes and the budget friendly bikes, the gap between them are closing down. So even at a affordable price, the youth can buy the bikes, and then it's still emission compliant as well. And so their fan base is just increasing much.
Now we'll talk about Indian roads. So Indian roads are unpredictable. There are potholes there during rainy seasons of city traffic to mountain slopes, and yet Bajaj bikes seem built for all of it. How do you think that their testing and design approach offers from typical international engineering practices? Sushant.
Well, from what I always understand, yes, Indian roads are one of the most unpredictable ever. And Bajaj fulfills that need by bringing balance. So, like you mentioned, there's definitely a strong influence from international, what's it called, engineering practices. Similar, let's say, there's a European influence as we see the riding stances, the aerodynamics, and like various things. That's what make Bajaj special on is how they adapt to all of that to Indian realities. Like you said, the city traffic, the mountain slopes, and all of that. So what Bajaj has been doing with their testing and design of the best of earlier worlds and well making sure that Indian markets can compete with Western markets. So that is what Bajaj is bringing, balance to everything. Yeah.
Now that Bajaj has become a strong symbol of the Make in India movement, not just assembling bikes but exploring them worldwide. So, as budding engineers ourselves, what lessons can we learn from Bajaj's focus on durable chassis design and mechanical simplicity, especially when it comes to sustainable, cost effective engineering? Rekha.
I was muted. Bajaj has prioritized the life cycle cost of their bikes. So Indian roads, like Sushant said, are incredibly rough. I mean, we have good highways, but still the rural areas have high heat and dust. It's really tough terrain. All the bikes are built to be easily serviceable, and they keep in mind the maintenance realities of India.
Do you think Bajaj's partnership makes high end motorcycles more accessible to Indian enthusiasts, almost bridging the gap between imported superbikes and locally built machines?
Yeah, 100%. So earlier when I was talking about the European influence in the design and engineering approach, uh, a few examples that I can speak of very easily is the Dominar. The Dominar from which was a partnership with KTM was bringing performance and feel of a global machine, and they tuned it to our roads, our traffic, and our day-to-day use. So finding that sweet spot is what Bajaj has mastered. So offering bikes that excite the enthusiasts without alienating the everyday driver. It's kind of engineering empathy, understanding that Indian riders do want thrill, but not at the cost of comfort or practicality. And that's probably why Bajaj continues to connect so strongly with like riders across every generation.
As you rightly said, that Bajaj has always tried to understand the mindset of its buyers, the mindset of Indian youth. Indian rider today always wants more than just mileage. They want design, handling, and global appeal. How was Bajaj evolved to meet this changing mindset, according to you, Sushant, especially among this youth?
So Like Jacob was saying, the youth want more aggressive, they want more performance. That's exactly what Bajaj has been bringing as well. By, like I said earlier, the average buyer earlier looked for mileage and reliability, and Bajaj delivered that perfectly. But the youth wanted that performance, that design, and they wanted that bike to not just get them somewhere, and it just wanted to just say something about who they were. And Bajaj responded to that shift very smartly, like by making them international design worthy, by getting this R&D collaborations with KTM, Triumph, Kawasaki. They focused on making that design handling, that global appeal, and they did it masterfully. That's what enabled like the Bajaj's growth from the Dominar and the Pulsar, and to bring that performance of a global machine. That's it.
Bajaj often says that bikes are for real riders built on real roads. Jacob, how do you think their customer feedback and everyday observations influence their engineering decisions? So, Jacob, how do you think that the customer feedback and everyday observations influence their engineering decisions?
I mean, you can see it from the start of the very first Pulsar. It was very simple. They only it was testing. They were testing the market if the market is interested or not. But then when they saw that everyone, the youth, and even some adults liked it, they started improving it. They went through many iteration cycles. They gave better seats, better foam, and then they added faster gears. You can fast shifters, and then slipper clutches, and even there was I don't really remember it correctly, but then there were some reliability issues with their shifters, and so even they were very quick to fix all of that when the customers complained about it. So Bajaj really put their focus into it. So that shows Bajaj really cares for the riders and their opinions. And there it was the real road and the real riders were the real test benches. They could test it at tracks, but then it wouldn't be reflective of the real road use cases.
So, it's safe to say that Bajaj has always valued their customers and their customer opinions. So, now do you guys know that Bajaj has reintroduced Chetak but as an electric scooter? So, Shant, how do you see the company balancing its petrol bike legacy with a growing EV movement?
Okay, so that's a really interesting point that Jacob brought up about like being for real riders and built on real roads. And I think the reintroduction of the Chetak perfectly shows how Bajaj listens to its riders and evolves with them. The original Chetak, it stood for trust, simplicity, and practicality. And well, it was the symbol of reliability. And those values still matter today. And what Bajaj has done with the new electric Chetak has carried that same emotional legacy onto a new era of technology. Instead of treating EVs as a complete break from the past, they have used the Chetak name to bridge both worlds, like bring nostalgia and innovation. It's familiar and yet futuristic. And of course, Bajaj still has its strong petrol bike legacy. They're being smart about the transition, not rushing it, but preparing for it. And they understand that many Indian riders still depend on petrol bikes for range, affordability, and convenience. So while their motorcycles continue to push performance and efficiency, the Chetak EV quietly builds the foundation for what's next. And in that sense, Bajaj isn't choosing between petrol and electric. They're making sure their riders are ready for both.
It's a beautiful fusion of nostalgia, our childhood memories with the today's world's needs. So, Bajaj is growing fast in markets like Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia, all with its affordable performance philosophy. Do you think this idea could redefine how the world views Indian motorcycles in the next decade, Jacob?
Yes, definitely. In Latin America, Africa, and like you said, Southeast Asia, the affordable performance ideology is very valid there as well. It's very similar to the Indian market. The idea just clicks. It's like durability plus the punch at the right place, right? It's a perfect balance. That narrative sticks. So Indian motorcycles are becoming a enthusiastic choice even in those areas. So globally, they are becoming a market holder, and they share it with giants like
Giants like Kawasaki, maybe? Is Kawasaki a affordable one? Affordable performance philosophy? I'm not sure. I don't think
no,
so.
actually, Kawasaki, Bajaj bikes are sold under the Kawasaki name. In some areas, was
Oh,
sold.
cool. Oh, nice.
Okay, so that brings us to the last question for our podcast. We are heading into an age of smart clusters, AI based diagnostics, and connected bikes. And Bajaj lead that way while still keeping prices accessible. Will it create a new gap between premium and budget segments?
So, well, Bajaj expanded globally with its affordable performance philosophy. And the next big challenge is exactly this: how to stay accessible while moving into a more connected and tech driven future. Well, Bajaj is Bajaj. It brought balance, and at the same time, it's going for that affordable performance philosophy. So, well, as we enter an era where bikes are becoming smarter with features like AI based diagnostics, Bluetooth connectivity, and digital clusters, it's interesting that Bajaj is not, has always been clear about value. They don't add tech just for the sake of it. They add it when it genuinely improves the riding experience. So I think that Bajaj will continue to lead this wave by democratizing technology. That, what's it called? That mm, affordable performance philosophy. They'll bring premium features to the mass market without losing sight of affordability. Sure, there will always be a premium segment for their high end models, but Bajaj's strength has been in making innovation scalable. Whether it's performance, safety, and now connectivity, they find a way to make it accessible to the wider audience. So rather than creating a gap, I think Bajaj has the potential to bridge it, making smart connected mobility something every Indian rider can experience and not just that premium few.
So when Bajaj steps into the super bikes category, so according to us, it will still be affordable for Indian masses. And now that brings us to the end of this podcast. What a journey it's been from the Chetak's nostalgic charm to the person's power, and now the Chetak's electric's innovation. Bajaj has truly evolved with India. Days helped India evolve too. It's incredible how engineering, design, and ambition come together to shape not just machines but movements. A huge thank you to Sushant and Jacob for joining us today and to all our listeners for turning in. Until next time, this is Nidhi signing off from the SAE-VIT podcast. Ride safe, stay inspired, and keep engineering the future. If you like this episode, do like, share, comment, and subscribe to SAE-VIT. Thank you.